Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through all the tech specs and charts and really give you the valuable stuff from the source material. And today, we're going deep, way deep into the high end of professional mirrorless cameras. We're comparing two real heavyweights.
Yep.
The Canon EOS R3, which is, established, battle-tested, and the brand new flagship, the Canon EOS R1. So if you're trying to figure out where Canon's putting its latest tech, and maybe more importantly, which of these super fast cameras gives you the best value for shooting action, sports, wildlife, well, this is your deep dive, our mission. Get past the spec sheets. Find the real differences that actually justify that pretty big price gap.
Yeah, and that price gap, it exists for a very specific reason, really. Milliseconds. In action photography, there's just no room for error, is there? That perfect shot, the peak moment, it's gone. Gone before you can even think about pressing the shutter. These cameras, they're built not just to be fast, but to eliminate that human reaction time lag. The gear responds faster than you physically can.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting with the basics. Before we get into what makes the R1 potentially worth all that extra money, we need to talk about how good the R3 already is. So what's the shared DNA here? What do these world-class cameras have in common?
Well, the core imaging part, it's basically identical. Okay. And that's really key for anyone deciding between them. Both use the exact same 24-megapixel stacked CMOS full-frame sensor. That stacked CMOS part is important.
Right. That helps with the speed, doesn't it? Reading the data faster.
Exactly. The circuitry is layered differently, allows for incredibly fast readout. So what that means for you is, well, the base image quality, it's identical. You're not paying extra for the R1 to get better resolution or, color science.
And that identical quality carries over into the build and the basic features too.
Precisely. Both are tough. Built like tanks, really, for pro use. Mirrorless, obviously. And crucially, both have in-body image stabilization. IBIS.
Yeah, that's huge for hand-holding long lenses.
Absolutely. The sensor moves to cancel out your shake, keeps shots sharp, even with big telephotos when you're tracking something moving. And yeah, fully weather sealed too, built for tough conditions.
Okay, and focusing, which you could argue is the most critical thing for speed cameras. Looks the same on paper.
It does, yeah. Both use Canon's really advanced hybrid phase detect autofocus, 10/53 AF points. They've got that eye sensing AF too, which is pretty clever at finding the subject's eye.
Yeah.
And low light, also impressive. Both lock focus down to 𝐓𝐴 CV. So yeah, they can find focus in almost total darkness.
Huh. So if the sensor, the stabilization, the build, the basic AF system, if all that's shared, then the big price jump for the R1 must really be about the brain inside it, the processing.
That's exactly right. And what's fascinating is where Canon put that extra R&D money. It wasn't more pixels, it was pure computational horsepower. So let's look at the processor. The R3 uses the standard DIGICO, which is already, incredibly fast. But the R1, it introduces the DIGICX plus what they call an accelerator process.
An accelerator, like a co-processor just for focus.
Kind of, yeah. Think of it like that. It's not just crunching data faster. It's designed for genuinely better tracking, better prediction, especially when things get really messy, subjects moving unpredictably against cluttered backgrounds.
So it's not just seeing the face, it's predicting where that face will be next millisecond.
That's the idea. Imagine a skier weaving through gates, snow flying everywhere. A standard processor tracks what just happened. The accelerator is trying to figure out the next tiny move before it even happens, or at least react faster than the standard chip. It's shaving off those tiny delays.
Okay, that makes sense for tracking. But the feature everyone's talking about, the one that feels like a real leap, that pre-release burst mode, only on the R1, right? That's the one. And yeah, it's a potential game changer because it attacks that final bottleneck, your own reaction time.
The R1 starts buffering images maybe up to half a second before you actually fully press the shutter.
Half a second before? Wow.
Yeah. So you see something unexpected happen, like a bird suddenly diving. You react, press the button, but the camera's already captured the start of that action. The bit you would have missed.
Okay, hang on though. Pre-release burst sounds amazing, like a safety net. But doesn't that constant buffering just eat through memory cards and battery life like crazy? Is that actually practical for, say, a whole 5-hour game? Or is it something you only turn on for specific moments?
That's a fair point. A definite logistical challenge. The sources suggest, you probably wouldn't leave it running all day long. It's efficient, but still demanding. But for those absolutely critical, unpredictable moments, the start of a race, maybe a key play, specific wildlife stuff, it could be invaluable. Pros might accept that trade-off managing cards and batteries to guarantee they don't miss that one shot.
Right. Speaking of guaranteeing shots, let's talk pure speed. Burst rates. The R3 is already super fast, but the R1 seems to take it to another level.
Oh, the numbers are pretty wild here. I mean, the R3 is fantastic. 30 frames per second electronically with a buffer that holds, what, about 420 RAW files?
Yeah, that's about 14 seconds of continuous shooting. Still amazing.
Totally amazing. But the R1, it pushes that electronic burst to 40 frames per second. That's a 33% jump. And the buffer, it can hold over 1,000 RAW frames.
1,000 RAW, so that's over 25 seconds of nonstop 40p shooting.
Yeah, more than 25 seconds, continuously. That massive increase in speed and buffer depth means two key things for a pro. First, just way more frames to choose the absolute perfect micro moment from within an action sequence. Second, and maybe even more vital, the camera just won't choke. It won't slow down in the middle of a really long, sustained action. Think like a whole gymnastics floor routine or a long scoring drive in football. The R3 might eventually slow down. The R1 just keeps going.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Physical stuff. Maybe less revolutionary, but important day to day. Like you spend all day looking through the viewfinder if you're a pro, and the R1 gets a big upgrade there.
It does, yeah. The R3's electronic viewfinder is already excellent, 5.76 million dots, 0.76x magnification, very good. But the R1, it's got a stunning EVF, 9.44 million dots, and bigger magnification too, 0.90x.
Yeah, 9.44 million dots. That's not just numbers, right? If you're trying to nail focus manually on something moving fast, that kind of clarity must make a real difference over a long day. Less eye strain, more accuracy.
Absolutely. A bigger, sharper viewfinder just makes everything easier. Composing, tracking fast subjects, and confirming focus instantly when the pressure's on. It really helps.
And then storage. Again, seems like the R1 is all in on speed.
Yeah, the storage setup confirms that. The R1 has dual CF Express Type B slot. That's the fastest card format available right now.
Right, and the R3.
The R3 has one CF Express Type B slot, but the second slot is a standard SD card slot. There's still a fast UHS 2 type.
So the R3 gives you maybe more flexibility, cheaper SD cards, but the R1 guarantees maximum write speed from both slots, plus that dual backup security for those huge 40p bursts.
Exactly, and you see other little speed bumps too, signaling that top-tier focus. Like the flash sync speed, R1 is 13/20th of a second.
Compared to 12/50th on the R3, why does that little difference matter to someone?
Well, it gives you a slight edge using fill flash outside in bright sunlight, a bit more flexibility balancing the ambient light with your strobe without blowing out highlights. Useful for, say, location portraits. Oh, and video. The R1 has no recording time limit. The R3 starts after 360 minutes, which is still long, but for certain event coverage or long interviews, unlimited is key.
Okay, so the R1 is clearly faster, potentially smarter with tracking, and has that amazing pre-release safety net. But now we circle back to the R3, because for a lot of people, maybe even most pros, the R3 still delivers, 98% of the performance needed? And the price is way more tempting now.
Yeah, if we look at the bigger picture, the R3 is still an incredible value, especially because it's been out since 2021.
Right, let's talk money. R1 body only, launching at $6,800. What's the R3 going for these days?
Well, its original MSRP was $5,400, but now you can often find it street price closer to $4,000, sometimes even a bit less during sales.
Wow, so that's potentially a $2,800 difference, almost $3,000.
Yeah. And that is a huge consideration for anyone buying. That difference, I mean, that buys you a seriously good professional lens.
And top-tier L-series lens, easily.
Exactly. A fast prime, a workhorse zoom, and often, the glass you put on the front of the camera makes a bigger difference to your final images than, say, an extra 10 frames per second. A great lens on the R3 might genuinely produce better results than a decent lens on an R1 in many situations.
That's a really important point. And there's portability too, right? Slightly lighter?
A little bit, yeah. About 100 grams lighter. Doesn't sound like much, but if you're carrying it all day, maybe hiking, every bit helps reduce fatigue. Plus, you can't ignore the R3's track record. It's been the go-to camera at the Olympics, World Cups, Super Bowls, everywhere since 2021. It's a known quantity. Thousands of pros have hammered on it in the toughest conditions. It's proven reliable. You know it works.
Okay, so let's try and summarize. What does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to choose? How do you decide between this fantastic, proven, maybe $4,000 camera and the absolute cutting-edge, feature-packed, $6,800 flagship?
I think it boils down to one question, really. Are the specific shots you're currently missing worth that extra $2,800 or so?
So you choose the Canon R1 if you shoot incredibly fast, super unpredictable action, like birds changing direction midair, maybe certain types of motorsport. If that half-second pre-release burst is genuinely something you need to catch moments you're missing now because of human lag. And if you absolutely need the maximum possible burst speed and that huge buffer for your professional work, then yeah, the R1 makes sense, assuming the budget is there.
Right. But you choose the Canon R3 if you want truly exceptional pro speed and autofocus, fantastic reliability, but at a much, much better price. If that significant saving would let you buy a better lens, which could improve your photography overall, or if, frankly, 30 frames per second and the R3's already large buffer are more than enough for what you shoot, then the R3 is probably the smarter buy. Financially and maybe even professionally.
Yeah, the bottom line seems to be there's no bad choice here. These are both incredible cameras, unmatched speed, amazing reliability, and worth saying again, identical 24-megapixel image quality. The whole debate just hinges on whether those specific advanced R1 features, that accelerator brain, the pre-release mode, justify spending almost $3,000 more for your particular needs.
Yeah. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. These cameras really are incredible tools. They push the boundaries of what's possible, kind of removing the gear as the excuse for missing a shot. But think about that trade-off really carefully. Is eliminating your own reaction time and getting those extra 10 frames per second truly worth nearly $3,000 to you? Or would that same money invested in a truly world-class lens attached to the front of the already brilliant R3 actually open up more creative possibilities and improve your photography more? It's a choice that defines not just the gear you carry, but maybe the kind of images you can ultimately afford to create.